Hello, welcome. So today we're going to make cherry fennel mostarda. Now mostarda is a special dish. It comes from northern Italy originally, and this is what I would like to call not a true mostarda. In other words, I'm using a lot of creative license with this dish. Traditional dishes have traditional components to them, and for the mostarda, one of the traditional components is dried fruit and mustard. And for this dish, I'm using fresh Bing cherries that have just been gathered from the farmer's market. So I feel like it's a justified kind of turning of this classic dish. This does have a good amount of mustard seed in it, and so that's why I call it a mostarda. And also the other ingredients are really traditional to the mostarda as well. The mostarda is such a wonderful dish. It's my favorite with pork, especially a brined pork chop. It's so delicious. And the idea that I had for this recipe really evolved out of an experience I had on an organic farm back in 2006 that I ended up actually writing a memoir about that experience. The memoir is called Hive-Mind. If you're interested, it's available on Amazon. I'd love it if you would read it and check it out. In this, I really talk about my experiences, I think, falling in love with the land around me on this organic farm in California. And in it too, you know, there's love and love loss. There's a tragedy as well, you know, at the heart of it. But what I took away from that summer more than anything was a love for ingredients and appreciation for the land and an appreciation for the farmers that work that land, I think more than anything. And so this dish originally came from Prune Plum mostarda with wild fennel. The prune plums were kind of a feature of this organic farm that was run by a really powerful female farmer, environmental activist. And the prune plums were incredible. And the way that she dried them out in the sun, they were kissed by, you know, the warm sunlight in the valley. It was in the Vaca Valley area. And those plums were just incredible, and they really inspired me creatively to come up with this plum mostarda with wild fennel that I had gathered on the roads around the farm. It's been a long time. So this is 2010, that was 2006. But I think what's exciting about food and food memories is they all kind of tie in and out, and you go back and forth, and you pull on things that you've tasted since you were a little girl or a little boy for that matter. And you're always kind of calling back and forth and in a dialogue, I think, with everything you've ever eaten or ever cooked. And so this dish really sprouted from that experience that I read about in Hive-Mind. Now, what I'm going to do is walk you through the basic ingredients and then show you kind of the key features and moves to make while cooking this dish. So you start with 1 cup of cherries that you've cut into 6. So they're basically generous slivers. And then I put those in a glass dish right here with a little sea salt and then olive oil. And I'm going to roast them in the oven for about 8 minutes or so at 375. So what that is going to do is it's going to dry out the cherries and kind of intensify the flavor in a nice way. And then I have a mustard seed, 1.5 tablespoons of mustard seed, half a teaspoon of fennel, just straight fennel seed that I've toasted in the oven and then ground up. Again, that's half a teaspoon of that. And then I have a half teaspoon of crushed garlic and a teaspoon of lemon zest that I've chopped up. So I'm going to put the lemon zest and the garlic in with the seeds here. And then also I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup Chenin Blanc. It's like a white wine. You can also use Sauvignon Blanc, or if you only have Chardonnay, that's fine as well. And then a quarter cup of balsamic vinegar. And I'm going to put those all together. Like so. And then while the cherries are roasted in the oven, this liquid is going to cook down, and it's going to get infused with the fennel and the mustard flavor. And basically I want to reduce it till it's about 10% left. So reduce it almost to all sec, but not quite. And basically that super intense liquid, when we're done, you'll see we'll put the cherries in there, and this will be our mostarda sauce. So hang tight, I'll get these ingredients cooking again, 8 minutes or so, 375 for your cherries. And then you reduce this liquid until it's just about dry, about 10% of the liquid left. So hang tight and we'll be right back. Okay, so I want to show you the mostarda base sauce. So you can see it's reduced quite a bit. Basically, when you reduce stuff, it's fine, I think, to start, you know, at a relatively high temperature to save time and kind of get it kicking, as I say. And then towards the end, you have less liquid in your pan. It's going to go a lot quicker. Watch out, you don't want anything to burn. And so I started off high, and now I've turned this down to a low simmer, and it's just about ready. Probably another minute or so, and it'll have reduced by 10% of its liquid, and then I'll take it off. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll take it off the heat. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so here we have the cherries that roasted in the oven for 8 minutes with a little olive oil, a little sea salt, and you can see they're, well, hopefully you can see it. I don't know if this is the best camera, but they've dried out a little bit, and they've roasted, so they've caramelized. That sugar in the cherries has caramelized. And then here's our mostarda base with a mustard seed. They're yellow mustard seeds and a little fennel, ground fennel seed. The white wine, again, this is Chenin Blanc, but you could use Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, and then balsamic vinegar. See, that is basically reduced about 10%. It's pretty syrupy and thick, right? And that's what you want to go for. Watch out, again, it goes really quickly at the end, so it's better to like kind of take it off the heat with a few percentage points of liquid left to spare, so it doesn't get too dry. Also, you do have some liquid, you know, from the cherries here as well. So I'm gonna stop this and put it together and show you the final. Okay, so here's the final version of the sauce, or this version of the sauce. And you can see it basically, I've combined the cherry with the mostarda base. See that thickness? It's just nice sauce-like consistency. Now what I'm going to do is, you know, I tasted this just now and I added a little salt. That's something that you'll want to do. You always want to, I think, you know, right before you're finished with a sauce, taste it for acidity and salt. Those are usually the two things that you can play with. Also, you know, fat, but this is fine with the fat. It just needs a little olive oil when you're roasting the cherries. And so this is the end result of the sauce at this stage, at least. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it sit for about 2 hours. You could let it sit for longer in the fridge. The sauce could keep for, I would say, you know, at least a week in the fridge. There's a lot of acidic ingredients. I'm going to let it sit for 2 hours to really let the mustard and the cherry and the balsamic and the fennel and the lemon zest and the garlic all come together. And so about 2 hours I think is right, you know, to let this kind of sit and let the ingredients mingle, as they say. Okay, so this is a view of the cherry fennel mostarda on a big fat pork chop. I've let the pork chop rest for about 8 minutes after taking it out of the oven. Now this pork chop I have brined for 24 hours in a cold brine that you can find on the website blog, as well as this cherry fennel mostarda. I like to serve the pork and the sauce this way because I think that it looks really dramatic to have a big pork chop like this and then the sauce on it. If this was like a fine dining restaurant, you know, or I'm serving it for people that I want to impress, I would probably slice the pork chop first and then, you know, scoop the sauce over it like so. But this is the way it looks. Now we're going to taste it, so hold on one moment. Okay, so welcome back. Now is the tasting. The best part of cooking, I have to say. So we got a slice of this pork chop and a big dipping of this cherry mostarda. So you can see the beauty that is this. So good. There's nothing like that bright cherry flavor. That's really, I think, accentuated by the reduced white wine and balsamic. Balsamic works so well with cherries. And then the fresh cherry is just this like pop in your mouth. And then you have the mustard seed, which, you know, it's softened a little bit, but it still has a little pop to it. Insane. and so good with the fattiness of a pork chop. These pork chops are really well marbled, and they're just so delicious. So please check out my book, Hive-Mind, for the really grounding inspiration for this dish. Again, it's available on Amazon. I think it's a interesting read in terms of, the structure. I play with structure a lot in the memoir. I think also the story and the plot, it really draws people in. And I think that there are a lot of life lessons in this book that I present, to be honest with you. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, this was kind of my tribute to what I learned on the farm that summer. And really, it's a life lesson I'll carry with me forever. And then please check out the base recipe for cherry fennel mostarda on my website at www.gabriellemyers.com. And you will also see that pork brine recipe and the pork chop recipe coming pretty soon, within like a week or so. I hope to have that up. Okay, so please check it out and keep cooking, keep eating, and be in love with life as much as you possibly can at all times, right? Thank you.